What does it really mean to be free? It's a question we probably all think about. But for the incredible thinker Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the answer wasn't some far-off idea about the afterlife or escaping reality. No, it was about changing reality. Today, we're going to dive into his powerful and pretty radical path to liberation.
So, when you hear words like salvation or moksha, what comes to mind? For a lot of us, it's something about the afterlife, right? Escaping the cycle of life and death. But Ambedkar just completely challenged that. He flipped the whole question on its head and asked something way more urgent. What about the suffering we're dealing with right here, right now? And this contrast right here gets to the absolute heart of his philosophy. He wasn't interested in some vague promise of heaven after you die. Instead, he championed what he called a this-worldly liberation, a freedom that's not built on ancient rituals, but on good old-fashioned reason. And it's not about just saving your own individual soul, it's about transforming all of society so that everyone gets to live with dignity in this life.
So this idea sent him on a search for what real freedom looks like. And he came to a huge realization. The deepest, most profound suffering, it wasn't caused by some cosmic accident or fate. It was built into the very structure of society itself. It was caused by invisible chains that were honestly stronger than any chain made of iron.
He had a name for this deepest form of bondage, mental slavery. Just imagine this for a second. Imagine being so beaten down, so oppressed, that you start to accept your situation as destiny, that you actually believe you deserve the disrespect you get. Ambedkar saw this as the most dangerous prison of all. Why? Because the prisoner doesn't even realize they're locked in a cage.
And that's exactly why his fight wasn't just against a few bad individuals. He was taking on an entire system, a social machine that was justified by tradition, a machine that literally poisoned society by teaching one person they were superior and another they were inferior.
Okay, so how on earth do you even begin to dismantle a system like that? Well, Ambedkar's main tool was simple, but it was totally radical. Fearless, rational questioning. He put every tradition, every single sacred text, under the microscope of reason and justice. Nothing was off limits.
His questions were so devastating because they were so simple and powerful. He would ask things like this. If a tradition or a philosophy doesn't promote equality and brotherhood, if it actually creates division, then how can it possibly be a path to freedom? I mean, it's a logical test that just cuts through centuries of dogma.
He was basically telling people, don't be sheep, don't just follow blindly. His whole message was a call for intellectual independence. He wanted every single person to use their own mind, their own experiences to figure out what's true and what's just.
Now, this relentless search for a path that made sense, a path that was both rational and just, it eventually led him to a really profound discovery, the Dhamma, which are the teachings of the Buddha. But he didn't see it as a typical religion. He saw it as a practical and, get this, scientific way to live your life.
Let's be really clear about what Dhamma meant to him. This wasn't about praying to gods or supernatural powers. Not at all. It was a moral framework. You could almost think of it like a psychological science for understanding why we suffer, what causes it, and then a practical guide for ending that suffering. And it's all based on two things, wisdom and compassion.
And at the very heart of this path are these two interconnected pillars. First, you have prajna, which means wisdom, or having a scientific mind, the ability to see things as they really are, without any superstition. And second, you have karuna, a deep, active compassion. And here's the kicker. One without the other is totally incomplete. They have to work together.
So from those two core principles, Ambedkar built his entire blueprint for what he called an enlightened society. The whole thing rests on three foundational pillars, which he drew directly from Buddhist teachings.
The first pillar is prajna, or wisdom. Think of it like a lamp in a pitch-black room. Ambedkar believed that ignorance, things like prejudice, inequality, hate, that was the root of all social problems. Prajna is the light of reason that just completely gets rid of that darkness.
But here's the thing. Wisdom by itself can actually make a person cold, maybe even arrogant. And that's why the second pillar, karuna, or compassion, is so crucial. And this is not just about feeling pity for someone. It's the active ability to feel another person's pain as if it's your own, and then being moved to actually do something about it. It's the social glue that holds humanity together.
So what happens when you have a society that's guided by both wisdom and compassion? Well, the logical outcome, the ultimate goal, is the third pillar, samatha, or equality. This is a world where every single person is treated with absolute dignity and respect.
simply because they are human. No other reason needed. So you can basically see it as a formula, and it's so clear and simple. When you combine the clear-sightedness of wisdom with the unifying force of compassion, the result is always going to be a society of equals. This was the blueprint Ambedkar laid out for a truly liberated nation.
But Ambedkar was never just a philosopher, sitting in a room thinking big thoughts. He was a revolutionary. A formula is totally useless if you don't actually apply it. So the big question is, how do we break the chains? Well, he gave us a clear, powerful action plan.
It all starts with this powerful three-word mantra that became the rallying cry for his entire movement. Educate, organize, struggle. Each word is a critical, non-negotiable step on the path to freedom. The whole process has to start from within. You have to build self-respect and completely reject the idea that you are less than anyone else. Second, you gain education. That's the tool you use to sharpen your mind. And third, you unite. An individual can be silenced pretty easily, but an organized community, they cannot be ignored.
Ambedkar captured the power of education with this just incredible metaphor. He said, "Education is the milk of a lioness. Whoever drinks it will roar." It's not just about getting degrees or certificates. It's about finding your voice, finding your power, and finding the courage to demand your rights.
And all of this leads to his ultimate and probably most profound message. It's a message of empowerment, of self-reliance, and of deep, deep personal responsibility.
This was the Buddha's final instruction to his followers, and it's the phrase that Ambedkar held up as the guiding star for his own movement. Apadipo bhava. It means, be your own light. Don't look for a savior outside of yourself. And that's really the key. Ambedkar never ever claimed to be a savior. He wasn't there to magically just grant liberation to people. He was a guide. He drew the map, he lit the first torch, and he showed the way forward. But he was crystal clear. This is a journey each of us has to walk for ourselves. Your liberation is in your own hands.
And so this entire incredible philosophy really ends with a personal question for every single one of us. He's given us the tools, reason and compassion to build a better world. The path is clear. So the only question that's left is this: how will you light your lamp?